Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into some really, uh, I guess you could say, relevant stuff today. We're going to be talking about technology addiction.
Yeah, a bit of a timely one, isn't it?
Yeah, and um, especially since we're using technology to have this conversation right now. So, you know, a little meta.
Very meta.
Yeah,
Little bit ironic.
a little bit ironic. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think we're going to learn that it's not about abandoning technology altogether.
That's
Right?
right.
It's about understanding how it works, how it can sometimes work against us, and then figure out how we can use it more intentionally.
Exactly. I think that's a really good way to put it. It's about being intentional with your technology use.
Absolutely. And to guide us through this deep dive,
Mhm.
we're going to be looking at technology bahemlulu, özgürlük ve digital kasda control. I hope I pronounced that right.
Sounds good to me.
Which, for those of us who don't speak Turkish, translates to technology addiction, freedom and control in the digital age.
Yeah, and that title really captures the essence of what we're going to be talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This kind of this tension, right? This paradox. Like
Mhm.
we've got all this freedom, we can connect with people across the world, we can access information instantly.
Mhm.
Uh, but at the same time, there's this like underlying feeling of like being controlled or maybe even addicted. So let's start unpacking that a little bit. Maybe you can help us understand, like at a basic level, what is technology addiction?
Well, I think in the simplest terms, technology addiction is when your technology use starts to have a negative impact on your life. It could be your relationships, your work, your mental health, even your physical health.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think, we've all probably experienced this to some degree, right?
Oh, absolutely. I know I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that feeling of like spending way too much time scrolling through social media or staying up late playing video games. Like, you should stop, but you can't.
And that's, I think, what's so insidious about technology addiction. It's not always as obvious as, say, a substance addiction, but the effects can be just as real, just as damaging.
Right. And the book actually delves into this a bit.
Hmm.
It talks about um there are these two main kind of, I guess you could say, manifestations of technology addiction.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely.
So there's the behavioral patterns, right? So that's like, the excessive scrolling, the binge watching, the constant checking of your phone. And then there's the underlying psychological drivers.
The why behind the behavior.
Exactly. So like, why are we so drawn to these devices? Why do we feel the need to be constantly connected?
Well, a big part of it, as you mentioned earlier, has to do with our brain's reward system.
Right.
When we get a notification or we level up in a game, our brain releases dopamine.
Ooh, dopamine.
Dopamine, that feel-good chemical, and that makes us want to repeat the behavior. It's like our brain is saying, hey, that felt good, let's do that again.
So it's like a positive feedback loop.
Exactly. You get the hit of dopamine, which makes you feel good, so you keep going back for more. But the problem is, over time, this can actually rewire our brains.
Whoa. Rewire.
Yeah. It's kind of scary when you think about it. Research suggests that excessive tech use can actually make us more sensitive to those dopamine triggers and less sensitive to rewards from real-world interactions. So basically, the more we rely on technology for that dopamine hit, the less we're getting it from things like face-to-face interactions or spending time in nature, and that can have some pretty serious consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we can all relate to that feeling of like, feeling kind of empty or unfulfilled after spending hours scrolling through social media.
Right, it's like you're chasing this fleeting sense of
A
satisfaction.
fleeting sense of
Yeah.
satisfaction, yeah. And the book also talks about how this problem is like it's not just our fault, right? Like
Right.
there's a whole industry, a whole design philosophy that's like intentionally exploiting these vulnerabilities.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The way these platforms are designed, it's almost predatory.
Predatory.
Think about it, like infinite scroll autoplay. These features, they're not accidents. They're designed to keep us hooked.
It's true. Like, you start watching one YouTube video, and then next thing you know, it's 3 hours later, and you've fallen down this rabbit hole of recommended videos.
And you haven't even moved.
Exactly. And the book calls these dark patterns, like these little design tricks that are meant to kind of play on our psychology to keep us engaged, even when we know we should be doing something else.
Right, like those notifications that pop up even when you've muted them, or the way social media platforms use color and sound to trigger our attention.
Oh yeah, it's like They've studied, like literally studied how to get us hooked, and then they've implemented it in their design.
They've got it down to a science.
They've got it down to a science. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the question then becomes like, where does individual responsibility end and like corporate accountability begin?
That is the million-dollar question. And it's a tough one. I mean, we all have the ability to make choices, right? We can choose to put down our phones. We can choose to log off social media. But when these platforms are designed to be as addictive as possible, it creates a very, very difficult environment to do that.
Yeah. It's like they're stacking the deck against us.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what can we do about it?
Well, I think there are a few things. On an individual level, it's about becoming aware of these tactics, understanding how these platforms are designed to hook us so that we can start to resist them.
Okay. So awareness.
Awareness. And then I think it's about setting boundaries, like actually making conscious choices about how and when we use technology.
Okay. So awareness and boundaries.
Exactly. And then on a broader level, I think it's about holding these companies accountable, demanding that they design their platforms in a more ethical, more humane way.
Humane design. I like that.
Yeah. There's actually a growing movement around this idea of humane design, which is basically, designing technology that prioritizes user well-being over engagement and profits.
Right. Like, what would it look like if these platforms were actually designed to like help us live better lives, instead of just keeping us glued to our screens?
Right. Like imagine if Instagram actually encouraged you to take breaks, or if YouTube had a feature that reminded you to go outside and get some fresh air.
That would be amazing.
It would. And the good news is that there are some people out there who are actually working on this. Like there are some app developers who are creating tools that are specifically designed to promote mindful technology use.
Oh, that's cool. So, like, what kind of tools are we talking about?
Well, there are things like screen time trackers that can help you see how much time you're actually spending on your devices. Okay.
And then there are app blockers that can help you, restrict your access to certain apps or websites during certain times of day.
So like if you're prone to like, doom scrolling on Twitter late at night, you could just like block Twitter after like 10 p.m. or something.
Exactly. And there are even apps that can like help you cultivate more mindful technology habits,
Yeah.
like by reminding you to take breaks or by encouraging you to be more present in the moment.
Wow, that's really interesting. So it's like we can actually use technology to fight technology addiction.
In a way, yeah. It's about using technology to our advantage instead of letting it use us.
I love that. So to kind of wrap things up, it seems like we're at this really crucial point in our relationship with technology, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's given us so much, but it's also presented us with some serious challenges. And I think the key is to be aware of those challenges, to not just blindly accept the way things are, but to really question how technology is impacting our lives and to demand better from the companies that are creating it.
I think that's a great point. And it actually, it makes me think of a question that the book poses at the very end, which I think is a really great one to leave our listeners with.
Okay, what's that?
It says, knowing what we now know about technology addiction and persuasive design, how can we each advocate for a healthier digital world,
That's a good question.
both for ourselves and for future generations?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we all need to be thinking about. Like, what can we do individually and collectively to create a digital world that is more humane, that is more empowering, and that is ultimately more conducive to human flourishing?
I think that's the perfect note to end on. It's not about demonizing technology. It's about recognizing its power and using it wisely, thoughtfully, and intentionally.
Absolutely. All right. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into technology addiction,
It's been a pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.